I wish I could talk to someone who's been in my shoes, you know? A Black South Asian woman running for president, preferably from the Bay Area.
The laugh that delights Democrats and infuriates Republicans.
I don't really laugh like that, do I?
A little bit.
An appearance on SNL with a viral presence online is a campaign tool and rite of passage.
You're a racist!
Who the hell is
Donald Trump did it in 2015.
Who is that?
Trump's a racist!
But not this time. Even comedy has become polarized.
I'm Hillary Rodham Clinton. Hey.
And Hillary Clinton did it in 2016 when the polls had her confident of winning.
I wish you could be president. Me too.
And we know how that turned out. If history doesn't repeat itself, it'll probably be because of them, women, marching for Kamala Harris in Washington, D.C. yesterday, twice as many as they had expected. What was an even more pleasant surprise for the Democrats was the number of women who swung a poll for Harris in the once reliably conservative state of Iowa.
I'm going to be 65 in January, and I can't believe we're at this point again.
We got to stand up for democracy. We have to stand up for a woman's right to have control over her body, control over her life. Women's rights are human rights.
What's triggering them is still the Supreme Court's decision to overturn abortion rights, thanks to the 3 justices appointed by Trump when he was president. Not to miss out on the all-important female swing vote, the Trump campaign organized its own women's rally, a smaller indoor affair. And in North Carolina last night, Trump showing again that he can be comedy gold.
I'm like the father. I consider myself to be the father of fertilization, remember?
Although half the country is laughing with him and the other half at him.
Because what do we always say? Keep Kamala and carry on a lot.
Back on SNL, laughing Kamala, as Trump calls her, and it's not a compliment. But can her jocularity make up for the pain that many voters feel about the economy and immigration? In a deadly serious election, can she have the last laugh? Well, joining me now is Democratic strategist Julie Roginski, who's in Pennsylvania, that all-important swing state, and Republican strategist Kristen Davison, who's in New Mexico. Welcome to you both. If I can start with you, Julie, that poll from Iowa, the Sexter poll, did that put a smile on your face? Do you think that indicates something bigger than stuff that's happening in Iowa?
So I'm not going to put my stock into any poll, whether it's good for Kamala Harris or not so good for Kamala Harris. I will say this. There is something going on right now, and it's been going on since 2022 when Roe versus Wade, the American right to an abortion, was overturned by Trump's Supreme Court. Polls back then really missed what was happening, especially among American women. There was an assumption that there was going to be a red wave. It was the midterm election for Joe Biden. And certainly poll after poll after poll predicted that Republicans would have a very, very good night that November. It turned out not to be a red wave. It turned out to not even be a red trickle for the most part. And I think that's because there are plenty of women out there who understand that this is not about fear-mongering. All the things that Democrats have been saying for generations, which is that if Republicans get their way, the right to choose, the right to reproductive care will go away. It finally happened. It's not scaremongering. It's not fear-mongering. We now have stories of women literally dying because they're going into sepsis in a country where, and I want to say this to the people listening, in Britain today, we are a country, the United States, where kings and heads of state from other countries fly to the United States to get health care. And today we have a situation where there are doctors who are very able to take care of women who are on their deathbeds because they're having miscarriages and going into sepsis, and otherwise are unable to get the health care that they need, despite the fact that those doctors are able to save their lives, because those doctors are afraid of going to prison and being prosecuted for providing women with health care because of Donald Trump's Supreme Court. That's what's happening here in the United States, and that's something that women fully appreciate and understand as they go vote this Tuesday.
Well, let me put that to Kristen then. Do you think that if he loses this election, it's down to women and it's down to the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade, which might have got him the evangelical vote, but would have lost him millions of other votes in this very tight election, Kristen?
Well, we talk about the women's vote and, kind of treat us all like one monolithic group. Women are a lot more complicated than that. I do think, of course, there are abortion voters and there are women who that is their motivating issue. But guess what? If that's your motivating issue, you were already voting for the Democrat no matter who it was. And so I think it's bigger than that. The one thing we saw in that Iowa poll, look, Donald Trump's going to win Iowa. It's not going to be close. He's going to win by, 5 to 10 points. But that poll, very respected group that does it, did show us that there could be some slide in support with those female independents, and even more interestingly enough, beyond women, senior citizens, voters over 65. Now that would be a huge realignment of party support. Generally, Republicans, do better with that over 65 voter than Democrats do, and we're seeing it in a number of states where that over 65, I think it could be some of the, liberal boomers are getting older. But I also think Democrats for a long time have been talking about, very loudly they talk about abortion, but deep down in these states, if you're sitting in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Ohio or North Carolina, they're talking about Social Security and entitlements for older voters. And I think that could be part of the reason. So if I think Trump's going to win, I think, this last, the way Republicans have been performing an early vote has been unprecedented. And I don't think it's all cannibalization of our election day vote. I think there are a lot of, I think it varies between 16% to 40% of being new voters. And so if that's the case, he's going to win the entire Sun Belt, which is Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Georgia. And he's going to he just needs to win one of the Rust Belt states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, or Michigan. Okay. And right now, yeah.
All right, we've got a few more questions to rattle through. Julie, one thing that I've kept hearing on the campaign trail is that people like Kamala Harris. Women like Kamala Harris. They think she's on their side. They don't like her economic policies, and they don't really feel that she feels their economic pain.
I don't know where you're hearing that, because look, we just had some statistics come out the other day that showed the United States, the envy of the world, 2.8% growth in the last quarter, 3% growth the quarter before that, record low unemployment. That. I'm not so sure that people aren't feeling that. I think that's something that Republicans are saying people are not feeling, but I'm in Pennsylvania right now. I speak to people all the time, and I can tell you that they understand that there were very difficult times that were going on with inflation after COVID. They also understand the price of gasoline, the price of petrol is way down. They understand that the price of produce is way down. They understand that more and more people are working today, record low unemployment. And so, it's one thing to tell people that they don't believe it. It's another thing for people to believe that they don't believe it. I appreciate that there are issues with immigration that people certainly are not aligned with Democrats on, but the economy is not one of them. And if you look at polls, you see that Kamala Harris is absolutely neck and neck with Donald Trump as to who would do a better job on the economy. That is very unusual for Democrats to be with a Republican. And I think that's as a result of the fact that the United States economy, empirically speaking, is the envy of the world. I think you, Britain, and on the continent as well, would love to be having the economy we're having today here in the United States.
All right. Kristen, there's one person who can defeat Donald Trump.
If you look at Kamala, her approval rating, it's not very good. I mean, people don't really love her. Okay. And this notion that people think the economy is fine. We just had on Friday an anemic jobs report that showed that jobs aren't increasing. So we're living in two different worlds here. People are hurting, and if they're going to vote for Trump, it's because they're afraid she can't.
Okay, let me jump in here. The Wall Street Journal declared that the economy was actually in a great shape. Just very briefly, there's one person who can defeat Donald Trump, and that's a guy called Donald Trump. If he kept his mouth shut and refused to say some of the ridiculous things he's been saying, surely he'd be in a much better position now, briefly.
So every time the media talks about something outrageous that Donald Trump says, it's like rinse and repeat. Trump says something, everyone in the media talks about it, and there's fake outrage, and Americans are like, why are we getting so outrageous? They're getting tired of it, and there is an underlying thing that I think most people in the media are going to have. They're helping him. I know they don't want him to win, but they're helping him. Every time they give Donald Trump the news cycle, he gets a bigger share of earned media, and that prevents Harris from getting her message.
I'm afraid, sorry. run out of time. Kristen Davison, Julie Roginski, thank you very much to both of you.